Today, some of us are wearing pink in memory of Uncle Bob. It is not a color I frequently wear, but I think pink was one of his favorites. And some of us are also wearing our Birkenstocks, which also remind us of him. Uncle Bob was a unique guy. He seemed to thrive on living his life slightly differently than most. He was more comfortable doing things differently than most people would be, and that's what I admired about him. When I was young, Uncle Bob would bring his newfies to our house in Hepworth. Our neighbors thought the dogs were bears in our backyard. I vaguely remember riding the newfies when I was a kid. Then when I was a teenager, I went to Florida with Uncle Bob in April to see our grandparents. It was on that trip Uncle Bob adopted his first of many greyhounds, George. I'm not sure Aunt Donna knew a greyhound was coming home that week. I remember thinking my parents would never have adopted a dog like that. It definitely set Uncle Bob apart from others for sure. Scott already mentioned it. I was remembering also the time when the dog stole the turkey carcass at Christmas. Fun times. Another Christmas, maybe it was the same one at the Bailey house, I remembered that the family had painted a tree on their sliding door instead of having a real tree, as I think you probably also saw the picture there. And I always thought that had to be Uncle Bob's idea, space-saving and innovative. Uncle Bob was a good one to assist with projects since he was a creative thinker. I remember quite a few projects he assisted with over the years. Uncle Bob was instrumental in coming up with the current layout of our kitchen, which worked perfectly, and I would not have thought of doing it that way myself. I'm also proud to say my kitchen and deck have both been Bobified. When I got married, our wedding invitations were also Bobified, as we had Uncle Bob take the picture of us that went on the front of them. That seemed to be during his photography phase when he was taking some neat pictures and had some for sale at a store at Sauble. Uncle Bob seemed to go through quite a few phases in terms of his interest. How great it was that he liked trying new things and expanding his interests. I'll miss Uncle Bob, his innovation, creativity, sense of humor, and willingness to help out.
Yeah, it really put a lot of thought and quite a few memories come to mind. But a few highlights for me that I think sort of summarize a lot of the memories I have. And the one memory I have is there was a tree in the backyard in Hepworth that had to come down. For whatever reason, the tree needed to be removed, and any normal person would have used a saw. But not Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob had a GMC Suburban and a chain. That tree came down very quickly, roots and all, not a shovel, not a saw. It worked perfectly. Like Scott said, Uncle Bob, to us always had cool things. It was probably the late 1980s when he had a cell phone, and he would call the house from the car, and that was amazing back then. Like, nobody had a cell phone back then. So it was always amazing to get those calls from Uncle Bob from the car, and that's a fond memory. And into the 90s, there's been several mentions of Uncle Bob's Volkswagen thing. Well, before he bought that, I had bought a 1968 Beetle, and once Uncle Bob bought that thing, all of a sudden we were on the road. We were going out. We were going to shows. We were buying parts. A lot of time in the car, and I do remember going with him to purchase that Volkswagen thing, ironically in a small village called Kirby, outside of Oshawa. And after that, yeah, we were going to shows, and those hours in the car with Uncle Bob, he always had a story. you know, all the travels he did, he always had something to tell you, something to say, and those are memories that definitely I'll treasure.